And where are you going to post it? On our Collegiate Sports Advocate page? Okay. And you tell us when you're ready, or should we go?
Hey guys, good evening. This is Erin Sykes with Cheri Erin, and we're coming at you with our second podcast. We're going to be talking real life recruiting truths. Where tonight we're going to be talking about camping and exposure. So I'd like to welcome Cheri online with us tonight.
Well, hey, good evening, Erin. We have just finished out here in the Midwest 2 camps. We went to the Tulsa
Online with
Elite
us
Division
tonight.
2 and the Tulsa Elite Division 1 camps. And let me tell you, the coaches are saying some funny, really important things. Like the first one, like, why are you signing up for camp? Are you coming to camp or are you coming to get exposure? Which one is it?
Yep, that's right. I think a lot of times there are some myths and untruths about camping and the experience that these college hopeful athletes are having. I hear it all the time. Just go to camp. Just go to camp. Just get in front of the coaches, and it's really not that easy, y'all.
Well, yeah, I had one coach quote to me, are they coming for exposure or are they coming to get exposed? And this coach meant in kind of a negative way, like there's just a lot of people out there not really ready to be college recruited or exposed in a positive way, right? So my advice there would be do your training, do your work before you get there. I mean, I did a stopwatch on a whole bunch of runners today, and I don't think people are doing the work in running. I mean, did they not watch the College World Series? The speed was really changing the game, and you got to get out there. You got to run. You got to run home to first. And there were not a lot under a 3.0, and we're talking at a D1 camp. It's like, hey, you should be running before practice, you should be running after practice, and you should be timing it. Let's go, right? I don't know, what they're doing out there, but the speed was definitely not as impressive as it needs to be, right? Did I lose Erin there? Oh, there she is. I see her. She's coming back on. I think we lost her there. The other thing I saw is, we talk a lot about the parents, it's like, hey, it's okay to let your kids come to a camp. You don't really have to watch them. You don't need to stand up on the fence and, because there's a lot of coaches walking around at this particular event. Several coaches are out there, pitching the balls and doing the training. And then there's several coaches that are actually standing back and watching and evaluating. That's what I like about this particular camp is they do a real good job of, allowing coaches some time to look and watch and actually evaluate the student athletes. So I thought that was interesting that there was parents, standing up on the fence like they'd never seen their kids, hit front toss before.
I love it. And you mentioned something. Are you coming to camp to get exposure or be exposed? And I think that's so important for these young athletes and parents to know the level of play that it requires to play at the college you're going. Take a realistic view of the players that you're hoping to play against at that level and see how you stack up. If you're going to a camp to learn to get better and become one of those players, that's a whole different ball game, and you shouldn't be going in a recruiting platform. You
Well,
you should take a whole different experience away.
yeah, I
So
was gonna interject there because I love that angle you just took because I always ask the kids, have you ever seen that school play? Have you ever been to a game? A coach made a comment, hey, I'm looking for a 21, not looking for it, but they're going to replace this class of 21 that are going to come up for opportunities in September, and they're going to replace a current junior on their team. Have you seen those kids play? Are you somebody that can play at that level? And then this one was a rough one. Hold on to this one. A coach said to me, parents' ability to self-assess is a lost skill. They don't have that ability, or they're not using it very openly to see the cues, to be able to evaluate their student athlete against the other student athletes against the talent nationwide, right?
Uh,
And they're, yeah.
and I think that's the key right there, Sherry. It is talent nationwide. There are hardly any schools within this country, aside from some smaller 2-year programs, maybe some smaller D3s and NAIAs. All of these colleges are recruiting on a national level right now. And the
Oh,
numbers of the
absolutely.
girls playing across the nation far exceed the roster opportunities. So it is so important for parents to have a national view of their player. If you
Well,
don't know, then find a national team playing in your area and go watch them play.
absolutely, and I think CSA is a good example of it this weekend. You had Kim out there at Zoom into June, over 200 coaches. I was at Tulsa Elite, over 100 and I think it was 115 coaches at the last count that I looked. I mean, you were out at Scenic City. Penny was up in New York at PGF. You had Bob out in Ohio. You had Jordan in Louisiana. You had Brenda and Kathy in DFW. I mean, we were everywhere, and lists of coaches, and it's the assistant from one school, whereas the head coach was in California and the other assistant was at Scenic. I'm like, hello, they're
Yep.
looking across the entire nation.
Yep. These schools with the bigger budgets can absolutely do that. The schools with the smaller
Hmm.
budgets are going to go to the places where they get the most bang for their buck. They
Hmm.
can't afford to go to all these itty bitty showcases across the country. They've got to go to the bigger events where they see the most kids and spend the least amount of money, because most of the college programs across the country do not have recruiting money flowing out of their budget.
Right, absolutely. A couple other funny things. I was walking up the sidewalk and I saw a team coming out of the third base dugout to run to left field, and I heard a coach say, "Hey, it's okay to get in a hurry here, to be in a hurry to get out here." And you say it over and over again. We've said it a million times, hustle in and out. A slow jog is not a hustle. A sprint from right field to get into the third base dugout to beat your infield in is a sprint. And I mean, if you watch the college teams, that's what they're doing, right? They're not jogging off the field, they're sprinting off the field. Be athletic, look the part, get your hair tied up, get your uniform tucked in. I mean, look like you're a softball player. And one of the coaches said, are they playing softball or are they a softball player? Which one is it?
Yeah, take a look around these high level college programs. These girls don't jog on and off the field. It's a sprint.
Hmm.
Um, you know, you just and that's something that tone is set in practice. It's an expectation that the head coaches have to have. And if your head coach doesn't have that expectation out of you, then set the expectation. And I think there's a lot of players out there in the travel ball world that, maybe they're not playing on the greatest programs and the greatest organizations, but they need to learn to set the tone for their organizations and be that standout leader. And if they are playing in the right places, then those qualities are going to draw coaches to them, regardless of the name on their uniform.
And what do you see in body language? Doesn't body language tell a lot? What are some of the things you've seen out there?
Oh, yeah. Well, the kids that catch my eyes are the kids that walk into the ballpark with their own equipment on their shoulders, their heads held high, they're smiling. They walk
Softball
with
swag, right?
they
Softball swag.
walk with swag, and that's a funny
Hmm.
terminology to use, but that's exactly what it is. It's swag. You have to have just an air of cockiness. You can't play
Hmm.
this game. Everybody, I'm gonna go on the rant about the kid from Oklahoma State throwing her bat and bat flipping, and you gotta have that. That's
Hmm.
probably what landed that kid a scholarship to Oklahoma State, was because of the pure passion and joy that she has. And I had a Division II coach reach out to me the other day. Had recently had one of my student athletes on their campus for a camp. And the first thing he said was, "I love that she smiled the whole time she was here. I really was drawn to her. You could tell she loved the game. She wasn't just putting up a front, she wanted to be here. And it was so refreshing to see." And,
Well,
that spoke. So now, you know what I'm telling my kids when we have these pre camp calls that we do with our kids? That's like the first thing I'm telling them. Please go with a smile on your face and a genuine passion for the game.
yeah. Well, and I heard a coach here today, and we've said it forever. We've always yelled the word compete, right? I've heard it for years with the college coaches, and I actually saw a certain rotation of college coaches actually after the front toss, they did a one and done. Hit the ball, compete, and be done. And you wouldn't believe how they crumbled. I mean, compete. This is your chance. You get one swing. Let's go. Let's see what it looks like. How do you do under that situation? Well, that's what it's like in a game, you
Absolutely.
know?
I think you and I were on the phone earlier. I had a text come through with a parent talking about, her kid had done really well and then made a mistake in front of a coach, and the kid just hung her head because she thought that she had missed an opportunity. And she probably made an opportunity. She didn't miss an opportunity. She made an opportunity for herself to show that coach how she's going to bounce back and overcome. These coaches do not go to these events looking for perfection. They go to find the kid who has a love for the game, who is not going to let the game defeat them. They're going to
Right,
find the kid with the grit and the guts to get up and do it better next time. Um,
right.
so
Well, how
so
about the pitcher that comes to a showcase but can't command a 7 inning game, can't dominate in a scrimmage where they're, throwing balls to batters and you're walking everybody. I mean, is that a kid that's ready? Should they stay home and spend more time with their pitching coach and come when they can command a 7 inning game?
hey, everybody's going to have a off day here and there, but dominant pitchers dominate when called upon. You know, you may have the off inning, but you're not going to have an off 4 innings. I've had parents call and tell me, well, my daughter throws, 62, 63, 64 in practice, but she can't hit that in a game. If
Yeah,
adrenaline's not pumping in the game and she can't hit above what she hits at practice in a game, there's a problem here. Kids should be throwing harder in a game than they throwing in practice. They have adrenaline driving them.
right.
Uh, so
Well, have you ever
absolutely.
noticed that the coaches really aren't watching the count? They're not watching how many times you had it bad. I see so many parents obsessing over, my kid went 0 and 2 today at the camp, or, hey, I don't see coaches keeping score and tracking how
No,
many at bats you have, but it's how
no,
you handled it.
they don't track at bats. They're not keeping score. They don't even know who won or lost the ball game. They are
Hmm.
out there assessing. Your kid strikes out. Maybe the coach was watching your kid strike out. They're going to see what your kid did next. Did she go to the on deck batter and give the on deck batter a clue as to what the pitcher's throwing? Did she go to the dugout and throw her helmet, or did she go to the dugout and immediately pick up her teammates and start cheering with the team? There's opportunity everywhere at these events to stand out, even in the negative.
Well, and I think you know that I was keeping notes of all the things I overheard the coaches say this weekend, and that ties right into the next one, which is ultimately, this coach quoted, we're building teams and culture.
Yep.
Where's the culture? Are you being that teammate? Are you enjoying other people's success when maybe you're not having such a great day, right? Talk and encourage your teammate. And these are teammates you don't know. What a great time to meet a friend. I've always said this, you're going to either play with each other or against each other at the layer that you play the game. For as long as you're playing the game, enjoy it. Meet somebody, make a friend.
Oh yeah, that building a culture, you said it,
Y-
Um,
Yeah, and we had
it
a rain out up here in Tulsa, and we had to go indoor a little bit. And I had a coach whisper to me, "How come they don't wear their helmets in batting practice?" And then I saw it again out at the scrimmage. They're getting thrown front toss, right?
right.
But I've always been of the thing of the school, when I ran a rec league, we had to keep helmets on if they were in a batting situation or they weren't covered by the insurance. I'm not sure if that's still the same case, but just as a parent, I mean, if you're going to put your kid in a batting situation, I think I'd put a helmet on them. And then the gardening gloves. Of course, I'm in the Midwest. I don't know if you see this, but we call them redneck gloves because they're wearing the gardening gloves, and
I
these
might have
kids.
had a pair, Cherry.
Yeah, Lord have mercy, girl. So we see them, and what colleges coaches say to me is, "Hey, we don't wear those in college. Get used to wearing the right batting gloves because we got to wear the right ones when we get to college."
Absolutely, I can promise you I didn't wear them to college, and I only wore them when I was here at the
Yeah, in
house.
the cages, and you're
Yeah,
taking 1,000 reps. I get it. You don't want to burn
absolutely.
through good gloves. You don't want to have holes in your hands. But when you get out here, again, you got to look like a college softball player, right? You got to wear what they wear, look like they look, because they've got to be able to transform you from that field to visualizing you on their field, right?
Well, and
So,
yeah, and we're talking about camps here, so, you know, I've noticed it. I don't know if you've noticed it, but can you pick out the kids that are absolutely being evaluated at camps?
no. Well, I mean, you can of course see the ones that are excelling from making the dive, or the kid that, is consistently getting up. What happens is you don't know which one the coach is watching, but when that kid hits another home run or goes and makes a dive while they're shagging outfield balls, that effort, they notice, and then they're like, "Hey, that's that same kid I just saw a minute ago. Hey, that's that same kid." Then they affix their eyes on it and really start watching a kid. You got
Yep,
to do something special to get their attention.
that's right.
Another one I had here is a couple coaches were during the actual Tulsa Elite event. They were talking about the uniforms. Some teams wear uniforms, you can't even tell what it says on it. It's not an identifiable logo, and yet it might be a name brand team, but you can't really see what their logo says. There's no year on their sleeve, there's no number on their back, there's no name on their back. You can't see what the number is. Is that a 00 or a 09? Is that a '06? Or, you just can't read it. And a coach said to me, "Why would these clubs spend so much money on these, beautiful looking uniforms, but we can't tell what their number is. We can't tell what their name is. And we surely don't even know what team it is."
Right. So,
Um, I'm looking at all my notes here. I had a funny one, and this is another Texas thing, because Dr. Pepper was made in Texas, and there was a lot of Texas Oklahoma teams. But I actually witnessed a mom getting up to go hand her kid a Dr. Pepper in the dugout in a scrimmage. I was like, whoa, you know. Think we can save the Dr. Pepper for the treat ride home, but it's hot. It's the Midwest. You gotta have some water, hydrate yourself, but pack your kid's lunch. Let your kid pack their own lunch. Bring their own cooler in. You know, uh, maybe bring everything with you. They want to see the independence of the student athlete, right?
that's right. And, oh man, it just
Well, and here's another one, because it was sort of the end of the day, is, do you play as sharp at the start of the event as you do at the end of the event? They looked a little droopy. They looked a little tired. Is your conditioning the same conditioning that would get you through, 2 or 3 games in a tournament? Is that going to get you through the game when you get there? We've always said, if you're going to be fast, be the fastest of the fast. If you're going to be a medium speed kid, be the fastest of the medium. And if you're not the fastest kid, at least be the fastest of the fast kids, right? Kind of separate yourself and give yourself some differentiation there. Um, Trying to look through my notes here if I've got anything else. Nick, do we have anybody else in the group here that wants to jump in and ask some questions? Okay, excellent. Awesome. Well, um, and where do I see that text? Or I'm not familiar with that on here. Do I need to read it, or did we handle it already? Awesome. Awesome. Um, so that's what I'm saying. I don't see it here. So, I saw you handle it, and that was, oh, I see. Okay. Uh, a college coach told my kid's coach that she crossed a girl off her list because she broke down crying after her coach yelled at her. Yeah, kind of tough. Coaches are expecting more than that. You've got to be able to handle failure at this point, right? You got to be at a place in your journey to be able to handle disappointment, success, failure. The thing I keep trying to tell parents, with the 347,000 coaches out there, I mean, coaches, 347,000 registered high school softball players, is coaches have choices. They don't have just the 150 that are here at one camp. They have a lot of choices. They don't have time to fix some of those things that are broken when they have choices to pick somebody else that doesn't have those issues, right? So hopefully I answered that one.
No, and that's an awesome point right there, Cheri. I had a discussion today with a father about choices. When I was coming up, we were pretty limited in the number of girls playing the sport. If you were good, everybody knew you were good. And with the numbers that you see in the game right now, there's tons of good kids. But if your kid is just average and mediocre, they're just average and mediocre. They're not doing anything different. They're not doing anything to stand out. And that's a hard pill to swallow. A lot of families are, pushing for their kids to be this or be that, and they're not looking at the real picture. You mentioned it earlier, 150 kids at camp. How many camps do each college have? That's just
Mhm.
one camp.
Yeah, that's one multi-school camp. Then they have their elite camps on campus. Then they have their, open 2-day camp. They have their overnight camps. If you start doing the math on it, my advice would be, and maybe this is, how we wrap it up, but do the work. Spend more money training to be ready for camp. So when you bring your talent to a camp, yes, you want to learn at a camp and you want to learn from these very talented college coaches, but I think the colleges understand most of these student athletes are coming to a camp to be showcased, not necessarily to learn, which is kind of unfortunate too, right? So another question came in. Do college coaches really care about which travel team that a kid plays for? Well, may I handle this one, Erin?
Go ahead.
Awesome. We get this one a lot because obviously my husband coaches for a very large named brand. What I tell people is, as a CSA rep, I don't care what your brand is, but I do care how your team is coaching, training, developing. But where the brand comes into play is whether or not the college coach has a relationship with a trusted brand or trusted coach that they can actually come and know that they're going to prepare you to play when you get in college. Then I would dangle it with, you got to go to the events that you're playing against the talent level in which you're actually going to have competitors going to the same conference. So let's say you're intending to go to a Power Five conference school and you want to get seen by Power Five conference coaches. You better go where they're going, and your team better be good enough to play in those events. And so sometimes the name brand helps, but you actually have to deliver results when you get there because you don't necessarily get invited back. So, yes and no, I kind of flip flop on that one because I think you can make a name for yourself. It's just you got to start young, you got to make the name for yourself. The challenges in recruiting is staying on the team. So many kids change. I had a college coach tell me this weekend they spent hours just sorting out the kids that they were watching on their watch list and figuring out what team they went to. I think that's kind of a sign of the sad times, to go to the college portal is that end result. What are your thoughts there, Erin?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you don't follow me on Facebook, I made a post about it last week. There is very little loyalty from anybody in the game right now, and that speaks to the coaches as well. And people will make arguments that these coaches are not loyal to their programs, but you know, I see that as job opportunity. Softball is not your job opportunity. Softball is a way for you to earn an education, and I thoroughly expect people who are employees to want to build their resume and continue to grow in their career. But softball is not a career. Softball is a means to an education, and you should be loyal to your program. Um, you know,
I
you,
think it's building a reputation no matter where you go, whether it's in softball,
absolutely,
that you've got
absolutely,
loyalty and dependability and you're building good characters, traits, right? Because then you're going to take that into your workplace. And I've said this a million times on our social media, quitting is a bad habit and it becomes an excuse instead of fixing. And you all know me famous for this one, but wherever you go with you, so fix you, right?
absolutely. So,
Well,
and
Nick, I was going to say, Nick, do we have any more questions? And Erin, any more thoughts here?
Oh, that's it.
Hopefully we gave you all a good dose of what we're seeing out there, and hopefully things that help you guys become better student athletes and understand, the depth of knowledge that CSA has and the depth of work that we do out there with our student athletes. We had 18 at the Tulsa Elite Division One camp today, and they were standouts. I was really proud of them today. So Erin, thank you always. We love your spirit and your knowledge and what you bring to the table. You're a joy, and CSA is super lucky to have you on our team. And Nick, as always, we thank you for your technology and your support and all you do for CSA. So everybody have a great night, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, guys. Good night.